Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joined by Doug Utjesenovic, St George Budapest and Socceroos legend. On behalf of the Johnny Warren community, thank you, Doug, for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here.
How are you going?
Well, always happy, and especially when I come here in Jamberu and see so many friends, which makes nice memories, and really, my heart is full of happiness.
Yesterday was Johnny's birthday. He would have been 74 years old.
Yeah.
He was a friend of yours?
Oh yeah, we were like a big family, like in St George, and part of the national team too. We were like a big family, and really, it's like losing Johnny is like losing a part of the family. Yeah.
When you played with Johnny at St George, you were both very young.
Well, relatively.
Relatively young. What was he like as a teammate in the change rooms?
Well, a very good leader, encouraging person, and obviously he knew what he was talking. He had lots of experience, and he was way ahead of those days, of the Australian way of thinking of football. He was much closer to the European thinking of football. Probably because he went to the lots of courses, with German coaches like a Kramer, and I think he picked a lot from him,
The influence that you're talking about from Europeans and also South Americans perhaps later on came into play with Johnny's thinking about the future of the game in Australia?
He was always, he was very progressive. He was offended when somebody was calling, soccer and all this. He always tried to have a really name of really football, which is football. That's it.
And St George Budapest had 10 Socceroos in the 1974 World Cup. You, of course, were the right back.
Yeah.
You also played at centre back in your career. But in the 74 World Cup, you were a right back.
Yeah.
The defence was yourself, Manfred Schaefer, of course, the captain, Peter Wilson, and Cole Curran, who we've spoken to today as well.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that defence when you look at it now compared to, or as you would see it moving forward? What was that defence like, playing in that defence?
Yeah,
what was it like?
Well, we were, as I said before, we were part of the family, and what was very good because we play lots of games together, and we really gel, together, and really, you feel like at home. Actually, my real position from back home when I was playing was a right full back, but then when I come to St George, I become the libero. But as a defense, I think we were very disciplined, and what's more important, we were very well marshaled by the Peter Wilson. He was a really good leader, and also we knew each other. We knew how to cover each other, mainly because we were playing together for some time, for a few years, 2 years before the World Cup, and then after two World Cup, I played still with Peter Wilson, and as I say, I think my secret is that you play together, and you know how to, to adjust to each other, and you know how to fix up the mistake from each other.
You come from a Balkan background when you came to Australia.
Yeah.
What was it like for you integrating into society, and particularly how did football play its part for you? Well,
football is always big part for everybody. Whoever can play football, he's all right. He's always got a privileged position in society. I always say, if you go to middle of Africa, all these people who eat the people, if you are a soccer player or priest, they would leave you last, to eat you last. Because as I say, football is an international game and speak every international language. And as far as I'm concerned, I had it pretty easy because I was brought up by the club. I didn't come to any camps or any, for the migrants. I was directly brought up by the club. I got a flat. I settled very well in Melbourne, and then opportunity come for St George, and I grabbed it, with both hands,
Do you look back on your playing days as being the best time of your life?
Well, yes, football still now is my life. As I say, I watch I don't miss any games on the TV. And it's always, back. As I say, it's always, really big part of my life. Like, and even if I didn't play football, I wouldn't finish, in Australia. That's the thing, like,
You're one of very few people who spent a lot of time with Johnny Warren, particularly with the national team setup and at St George. Did you feel at the time that he was going to become the visionary that he was?
Well, yeah, he was always progressive. He was progressive, and he was fortunate enough that he had a full-time job with the St George as a PR, and that was really, good introduction to later to his, job that he was doing. And of course, he wouldn't achieve anything if he didn't love the sport, and that's the main thing. I understand he was very good cricketer too, but love for football probably make him, much more, and that's why he's a perfectionist. Like, I like to be like that too, just to be perfect. Whatever I do, I like to do to perfection. And really, he had this desire, which took the football to this stage level now in Australia.
What was his relationship like with Rale Rasic?
Well, I think he was just a little bit bitter, because he lost the captaincy. But Rale Rasic, he brought new people into the squad, and he had John didn't play because he had a big injury, and then he come back, in the squad, and of course, squad was much more established, like, because Wilson was one of the leaders, and that's the choice. But John never really wasn't that jealous. I don't think he liked, I don't think he was happy with the situation, but he wasn't jealous, or he wasn't destructive, destructive towards the team, And I think he played big part in the qualification for the World Cup, especially game against Iran in Sydney. I think he scored a goal, and really, he was one of the, as I said, big family, like, But certainly he never show any bitterness or anything. I can understand how he felt, but he never showed that he was, bitter because he's not a captain, of the team,
He wanted to play against West Germany, obviously, because Franz Beckenbauer was such a influential player in the world at that time, particularly with Bayern Munich. Unfortunately, he didn't get to because he was injured in the first game. He did play the first game against East Germany, in which Australia, the Socceroos, lost 2-0. You, of course, did play against West Germany.
Yeah.
How was that feeling as a young man walking onto a pitch in a World Cup against the eventual winners of the World Cup?
Yeah. Well, it was a great thing to play against such a players, like, But I never forget when we were coming on the field, like, Peter Wilson commented. He said, "Look at them; they're all 5 foot nothing, tall." And I think everything finished on that. Once game started, we were just beaten, but you could see they were much better team than us. Like, they were really good gel team, and really, you have to admire this thing. And they won the World Cup, like, that speaks for volume for them, like, And as I said, probably once with the Holland, I think they were to the best team on the tournament, and some of the people were thinking that Holland is the favorite, they're going to win and beating Holland those days with the Cruyff and Neskens and all these people, like, quality players, it was a really good achievement for the Germany, and they showed that they really deserve that World Cup, like,
How do you feel looking back, perhaps when you tell your family or grandkids or friends that you were participating in the same World Cup as Johan Cruyff, as some of the world's greatest players? How do you feel about that personally?
Well, just to be on the park with the players like that, is a big thing. Like, and I always say, greater players than me, some of the greatest players, they didn't even qualify, they didn't go to the World Cup, and which is really, for me, that's probably my proudest moment, especially representing Australia, like, and it's a different playing for the club team and different playing for the national team. On national team, you feel like you're carrying all nation on your back, like, and really, I never forget when we qualified for the World Cup, like, in Hong Kong, I felt like big brick, just fell off my shoulders, and such a relief, I never felt better than that night, I just sit, in Hong Kong in the hotel, I just sit against the bar, I had just a bottle of beer, and just sip, slowly, and that's it, But as I say, but that was a really nice feeling, I mean, it's same as I say, representing the country, just let alone not playing on the World Cup, just to represent the country is a big thing,
Part-time players. Some of the players were milkmen, car salesmen. 16 teams in the World Cup.
Yeah.
There are 32 now.
Yeah.
They're looking at expanding it even more.
Yeah.
The quality of opposition, obviously, with 15 other teams is very strong.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the way in which the tournament is going now?
Well, now it's just money, just rising the money, and that's it. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I would have 16 teams, and that's it, because, all right, lots of depend on the sponsors and all this money coming in, but really, you look this, like, now, you got a 4+1 teams qualify from Asia, those days, only one team qualify from Asia and Oceania, like, and really, to me, that's the really football. That's same token, let's say, what we're talking, European Champions League. You can't. One country got the 4 teams, like England got the 4, Germany got the 4, Spain got the 4. You don't have 4 champions in one season, and that's what I mean. To me, it's just more like a money making than anything else. And as I say, like, to me, I'm against any, I like to see the best teams, and this thing, tournament, longevity of this tournament, go for month, To me, just when finals come, you just lose the interest, like, And, to me, I think 3 weeks maximum, and really, and you can see really top football, and in the beginning, in the groups, like, after second game, third game sometimes is losing is not important, because already you got the teams who are qualified, and that's it. Doesn't make any big importance of that.
It would mean that in your day particularly, it would mean that the qualification process was even more important, because those 16 teams, you knew they were the best of the best.
Exactly.
So you would be very proud, obviously, with that 74 team making the World Cup, the significance of that.
Yeah, because we beat, teams like, Korea, we beat, what's the name, Iraq, Iran, and all these teams who are, like, really, that we're talking about whole Asia, like, Now, as I say, you qualify, you got the first 2 teams qualify automatically, and third team, play. That means you are not the best team in Asia. Like, you can be only, if you qualify, you can be only second best team, But to me, I prefer, much simpler system. But as I said, everything now is just the money, digging into the money, and that's it,
The 74 team had 10 St George Budapest players in it. Of those 10 St George Budapest players, what do you think they had to bring to that 74 team? Was there something that St George Budapest at the time was doing that was perhaps more significant than any other club in Australia?
We were the leaders. The 70s, we were the leaders in football. We were closest thing to professional, like, right, we had to work. But same token, we were supplied training gear, like, and all these things for the training, like, Already we introduced some psychologists into the game. As I say, I think we were a little bit ahead from our times, like, and I think that's why is the reason that St. George had a few players in the squad, like,
Just so the young people watching today can get some perspective, when you came back from the World Cup, could you tell us how much you were paid?
How much
you were paid?
But I was very happy, with all things with the World Cup. It's a different times. When I got money, what I earned for the World Cup, just put along qualifications for the World Cup. And World Cup, I got half a deposit for my house, like, which money was a different, But as I say, like, with us, money wasn't very important. I would have played for nothing, like, you know. But as I say, like, soccer helped me a lot, football helped me a lot with this thing too, because I was working too, you know. All right, we were paying less taxes and everything, but money had a much more value than what's now, like, you know. And as I say, whoever say other things, I disagree, because, you know, when I first come from Melbourne to St. George, I was broke. I didn't have a 15 cents to buy lemon squash, you know. And as I say, if I could make it, I make, because very hard life, you know. And I was working hard plus playing football, and that's how you made, you know, your future, like, you know. And that's why. But as I say, money-wise, it's not even worth talking. Value what was there and what was now to compare, like, you know. But as I said, what I am, I was very happy, and yeah, I can't complain about it.
How do you feel looking back on that 74 team, looking at what's happened since we qualified the first time after 32 years in 2006? Johnny always told us, "I told you so." Johnny always was a visionary in terms of what we could do. We've been to a number of World Cups now where we've had enough time to be able to look at it and reflect and say, okay, this is what we've done well, this is perhaps where we need to improve. What do you think, first of all, we should be doing in terms of developing our players? And secondly, do you think, based on what's happening at the moment, that Johnny would be happy?
Well, that's a pretty good question. I think John would be happy with the organization, and I always say, I think if you're talking about professionalism of the people, organization, FFI, I think they are the best. Like, you know, they do very good. You know, all these officials and everything good. You know, but that costs the money. Like, you know, as far as level of football, I think that he wouldn't be happy. I think we need him to develop much better players, and that's the onus on the coaches, like, you know. And I think one of the biggest problem with that is because it's too many private academies, too many people, you know, try to get money out of the parents, and is not really concentrating on teaching the kids. You know, it have to be really nice program, you know, and everyone have to follow the program, and then resort. We don't have much resorts. Like, you know, you can look, you know, now if you forget about 2006 generation, which was a really outstanding generation. Since then, we don't have many players playing in England, like in the first division. They all go all over the Europe, you know, at the end, they all come back when they are 32, 33 to our league here in A-League, which doesn't, you know, help much, you know, to development of other players, like, you know. And as I say, if you got you know, I think it's a big failure for the young coaches. If you got the good players, it's no problem to export them, but then you make money on them and try to use in the redevelopment in the new players. But we don't have this. We don't have this continuity, like, you know.
Do you think it costs too much money to play football as a young person?
Well, you know, when we were playing, like, we didn't have to pay. At least we didn't. Even my son, when he was playing New South Wales Academy, he never pay. You know, for now, you know, for everything they charge you, like, you know. And now, you know, of course, you know, quality suffer because really you got the young players for the poor families who can't afford. You know, that means their career is finished before they start, like, you know.
Your background, Australia particularly, in the recent times has produced a number of Socceroos that have come from the Balkans.
Yeah.
There have been Greeks, there have been Italians, there have been a lot of Europeans. Serbs, Macedonians, Croatians, etc. have had a big impact on Australian football. How do you feel about that? Is this something that the Balkans are doing, or that they have been doing over the past 20, 30 years and more, that has made them successful?
Well, you know, I just went recently back to Serbia, you know, and it's totally different attitude, different view on the football. Like when I was a kid, you know, Yeah, I slept with the football. Like, as I said, we used to play first game 8 o'clock in the morning. I have to go by bus and have to be 7:30 at the ground. Like, I have to go by myself on the bus, and I used to go about 8 o'clock to bed, and I dress myself a million times, like what I gonna put first, socks or and then I fell to sleep about midnight. Because I was so excited I couldn't sleep. But what I can say, we had a very good junior development, and I think that's the biggest thing what's lacking in Australia. They have to be organized junior development and to develop the players right from the from the beginning to the end, But everything has to be continuous, and coaches for juniors those days are much better coaches than what they were in the first grade coaches. The first grade coaches, they were all ex-players who come from Greece or Turkey, professionals, and who never had any experience in coaching. They were playing in Germany, maybe Turkey, Greece, but they didn't have any experience. And all these players were made by the coaches who finished the high universities, who are qualified to do this coaching. But I'm not talking, just this, what they got a diploma, whatever. They have to finish 4 years university, and then we can talk about a really coach. Coach who knows how to be doctor, who knows how to be psychologist. All these things have to be in one role.
So what you're saying is that you value. Your view is that you value an education on top of the football.
Oh yeah. But definitely, is for these coaches, they don't have to be really great players, ex-great players, but they have to be people who knows what they are doing.
They have to study.
And they have to study, but also they have to be some kind of in touch with the football. They don't have to be top players or anything like that, because usually very hard to find a top player to coach the juniors, and I think that's. As I say, I had a coach who was a professor too. Plus, he was a lecturer at the football school, football university, in the rank of the university. And he was a really, very good pedagogue. He was very good, psychologist. He was good with us, and that's it. And my thing is, football is to make the people, not so much footballers, but you make them good citizens of the country. Footballers, you can be only good footballer if you sleep with the football, if you are in love with the football. If you are talented but you miss the training, so you're not putting anything into training, unless you don't put 100%, forget about it.
I think that's a big message, is that the passion has to come from within and at home, really. You can't rely on other people to give that to you.
You see, back home, it was a sport. Football was number one. And to be, like I come from the poor family, and to be recognized, something I have to play. I have to be footballer, or I have to be singer, or the actor, actress, and then people recognize you and you feel much better, and you are different. You go to the different level of the society, on the stage of the society, And that's the only way. Through football you can become the popular, the people know you, read your paper, read your name in the paper.
Just finally, Doug, Johnny Warren had a lot of friends in and outside of football. You come to Jamboree every year, or almost every year, to celebrate his life, his legacy, to remember him. How much does Johnny Warren mean to you?
Well, I wouldn't just say John, but because I was always very close with the Warren family, and really, they always, especially when I first come, I couldn't, I come from Melbourne. I was in the Yugoslav team, which we were all talking Yugoslav. I couldn't even speak English, and really they were the people, like even John's late father, Vic, mother, Marjorie. And also, what's her name, Jeff. Jeff was one of the best friends I ever had, and really, with the John, because they are all Ross, they are all in the same mold, They are very nice, friendly people, and really try to make you welcome. You can see that they open your heart to you, and that's really bigger satisfaction than anything else,
Utjesenovic, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.